This is Debbie Rochon, and you're listening to Without Your Head.
Welcome to the station of decapitation without your head. I'm Nasty Neal, and I'm joined by Stuart Stone, co-writer and director of Scarecrows on demand, December 11th. It's very cool to have you here.
Thank you for having me, man.
Yeah. So for people who don't know, can you give them an idea what Scarecrows is about?
Well, Scarecrows is a film. It's a movie that's coming out, as you alluded to, December 11th. It is a throwback sort of horror film with an emphasis more on fun than anything else. There's, it's the story of these unsuspecting teens that are looking for an afternoon of fun and end up trespassing on this farmer's field that, unfortunately, if you trespass on his field, he kills or he captures trespassers and turns them into scarecrows, leaving them up in the field to die. So I guess it's, it's not such a great day for the kids, but it's a great day for the farmer who is very busy for the 85 minutes of the film.
Yeah. You said emphasis on fun, but I have to say it gets pretty dark. It's not, a totally fun movie throughout the film.
Yeah, definitely it does get dark, but I think that by design, it's sort of laid out in a way that kind of makes you forget that you put that type of movie on, so that maybe it'll hit a little harder.
I agree.
It doesn't turn into what it does.
Yeah, because you do spend a lot of time with the four main cast members, and you have fun with them and you get to know them. So, which is always better anyway, because then when something does happen to somebody, it means more if you spend time with them and are emotionally attached to them.
Yeah, I think that you do definitely get a chance to kind of get to know the characters, and I think that's. I appreciate you saying that, but I think it is important. I mean, if you don't care about the people at all, then you're not going to care if they start getting killed,
Right.
So, I think developing sort of the relationships and seeing like who these kids are, and you're kind of like rooting for them to live or die, I guess, depending on how you view it. But we definitely spend a good amount of time with these kids before we start having them get tortured and strung up. But it was a lot of fun to make. I guess that's why I use the word fun, because, we were having a lot of fun making the film, and in between takes, always smiles and laughs. And it wasn't a very, evil film to work on, put it that way.
All right. So you co-wrote it with Adam Rodgers. How long have you guys worked together? And was this the first thing you guys wrote together?
Actually, no. Adam and I have been working together for a long time. This is our second horror movie. The first one was called The Haunted House on Kirby Road, which focused on a bunch of like stoners kind of thinking it's a good idea to go to an alleged haunted house and smoke a bunch of weed and see what happens to them. It didn't work out for them, spoiler. But, when we did that movie, we realized, from the writing standpoint that, doing a movie in a haunted house is sort of dealing with like supernatural, killings and spirits, and you don't really have, a bad guy, so to speak. And that's something that we really wanted to do with Scarecrows. We wanted to create a supervillain, that, might last more than one movie. And that's sort of like how we started figuring out Scarecrows. We grew up watching the classic slasher films of the golden age of slasher films in the 80s and 90s. With Freddy and Mike Myers and Jason and Hellraiser and Puppet Master. All of them had these great villains, and we just wanted to take a crack at creating one of our own. And so that kind of explains Scarecrows. But yeah, we've got more on the horizon, and our production company 5-7 Films has a really busy 2019 ahead of us as well. So things are real good.
Cool. So we'll get to the future ones here in a second, but for when you're casting your villain, What was it? What was right about the actor you chose? What about him, made him be the right guy for Scarecrows?
Jason J. Thomas is a massive man. He's well over 6 feet. He's probably around 6'3" or something, and he just he kind of reminded me of the wrestler Kane.
I thought the same thing when watching it, actually.
And so I'm a big wrestling fan, and as soon as Kane walks through the door, I was like, we got to have this guy. Maybe somebody turning the channels will think it's Kane and keep the movie on. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But no, I think he kind of had that look. He looks like a movie monster already.
Mm-hmm.
So we threw a couple, putting him in the outfit and giving him some weaponry. It was quite good. There was a couple other guys that came in for the part that sort of played it a little bit like it would have played a little bit older.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it worked really well with Jason because it's sort of believable that he really could survive just about anything that these kids are throwing at him. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a combination of things, but he was definitely the right guy, the right look, and he walked in, and as soon as he walked in, it was like, yeah, that's our guy.
Yeah, definitely. I thought the same. He looks like the unmasked Kane. The clean-shaven Kane. I also thought, don't take this the wrong way, because he's not the greatest wrestler of all time, but I thought when you first saw him with the hat and everything, I thought he looked like Outback Jack a little bit.
Yeah, a little Outback Jack there, too, yeah. It was funny. We wanted to have a farmer's we wanted to have a hat that would sort of cover his face so that,
mm-hmm.
When eventually you do see his face, it's a bit of a more of oh, okay.
Yeah.
Aha moment. And the hat that they ended up with definitely had an Outback Jack, Crocodile Dundee type of vibe. In hindsight, I mean, that wasn't necessarily by design.
That's true.
But, we also... you watch a movie like Wolf Creek. There's some creepy reasons to want to have a guy with a hat like that, maybe.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, that's really funny, the Outback Jack. So you're wrestling. I like it.
Yes, I've actually interviewed Outback Jack many years ago. Very excited.
Yeah, nice guy.
So. Yeah, he's very cool. But I love the hat does work because, like you said, it does cover enough of the face, but then also leaves a little bit of the face there, so it's like there's like a person under there, so it leaves a mystery there. I like it. So
I appreciate it.
Yeah, Scarecrows themselves are creepy anyway, so I think you really intend bring up the creep factor with people, and I mean, it's not a spoiler. You already mentioned it, and you see it right at the beginning. But someone inside a scarecrow hung out in the field is very creepy.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, in real life, God forbid this should ever happen, but if that ever did happen, how would anybody know you were out there?
Right.
You're in the middle of nowhere, so it's sort of like those water movies like Jaws and stuff, when you're in the middle of the big ocean, who's going to hear you scream?
Mm-hmm.
It's very similar in the middle of a massive, a couple 100-acre cornfields in the middle of nowhere. No one's going to hear you, and especially at nighttime, you're not getting out of there. If you're dropped in the middle, it's almost impossible to find your way out.
Mm-hmm.
So I think those kind of ideas sort of played into the whole thing too. I mean, the real idea spawned, ironically, my Adam was on a trip with his wife, and they were driving from LA, I believe, to San Francisco, and on their way up the Northern California coast, they stumbled upon this Scarecrow festival in this town, a small town, and it was scarecrows everywhere, on the main street, posed in different, there's a baseball player, a doctor, a firefighter, all different scarecrows, and it creeped the hell out of them. And it was well, what if there was real people that were inside of there? And that actually was the catalyst to sort of get this whole idea sort of going. And we went to the drawing board with that, and it sort of just came to life.
That's pretty cool.
But scarecrows are scary. You know, they are. They're creepy.
And I was also
I remember watching Children of the Corn as a kid, and it's scaring the hell out of me. You know, and that was just, it's not so much about scarecrows, but just like the whole vibe of the cornfield and the weaponry and the, you know, all of that stuff was just real creepy, right?
Yeah, definitely. I was going to bring up this. The use of the scythe was very cool, and if you do make a sequel, I suggest more scythe because it's an underused weapon and it's a very cool image, and it's very creepy too.
I mean, if there is a sequel, I promise you there will be a lot more of that, just for you, my friend.
All right, thank you. And I just took pictures because I also wanted to bring up the crows themselves are creepy, and while I was thinking that. Not a crow, but a red robin just landed on the tree outside my window here. But the red robin's not nearly as creepy as the crow.
No.
And I like the crows are they're just kind of hanging out, waiting to peck away at people.
It's funny because the crow, like, it's not that easy to get like a trained crow. You know,
right.
It's not like it's not like you can just like phone up. And there's like a bunch of different listings for like crow trainers.
Yeah, the crow.
So there was this one guy like locally that had a crow, and we hired him to bring his crow to set. And on the day that the crow was supposed to come, and we're supposed to shoot all the stuff with the crow, we get a call that the crow's not coming because the crow died. It was like attacked by like another animal in this guy's like animal sanctuary. And the crow is dead. So we had no crow that day, and we, scrambled and had to get inventive. And luckily, there was a second crow. But it wasn't like as trained as the crow that we were supposed to get. So you're literally, in order to get the crow to do anything, it's a lot of sitting and waiting. Rolling camera and just hoping that something's going to happen. But they are meat eaters, and I saw that firsthand because, we would put pieces of meat, like, near the head, and hopefully the crow would, like, go over there and start pecking away, and sure enough, they eat raw meat. It's a little known fact that crows are meat eaters, so that's sort of, that's frightening, too, because if a rotting human corpse was actually in a cornfield, crows would probably actually eat them.
That's for you. Yeah, I was just wondering if the crow understudy was the one who killed the first crow, so he could get the role.
There could have been like a Hitchcock kind of thing going on there for sure. I understand there was some jealousy between the crows, but that's all over and done with now.
Yeah, and I like that he had a credit in the movie too, or she, I'm not sure.
Yeah,
Poe. Perfect.
Yeah, Poe. Yeah. Poe is the scarecrow, or the crow that ended up making it into the film, and the crow that died, pours them out for him.
Yeah, rest in peace. So where did you film it? Where do you find like a big a cornfield? Is this like a farmer let you use their cornfield?
Yeah, it was pretty much like completely like the film god shining on us. We were trying to figure out, we were reaching out to, bigger sort of industrious sort of farms, and everybody wanted big money to shoot in their farm. And of course, when you're doing like an indie horror film, you don't have the luxury of having huge money to like be throwing around at anything, let alone a location. We got really lucky. We were driving back from a dejected meeting with a major, player in the farming world out here, and we just saw this farm, and Adam made like a right-hand turn onto the guy's property, and I was like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "We're going to get this farm," and I'm like, "You can't just drive onto somebody's property." He's like that's how people get shot, and he's like, "No, we'll be fine." We literally pull up this like long dirt road to get to this guy's sort of farmhouse, and there's like this old man like in overalls, just sort of like sitting under a tree when we pull up. Straight out of the movies,
That's what I was thinking.
We ended up making a deal with the guy right there on the spot. He was really turned out to be great. He loved the idea of us being there and filming, and he had some stuff that he was trying to get repaired in his farmhouse. The timing was perfect. We made some repairs for him on his farmhouse, and in turn, he let us use his cornfield. He even got out on his tractor and like cut like sort of a maze for us, so we could like run around in there and shoot in there. The guy was so cool, Farmer John.
Oh, that's pretty awesome.
And, yeah, we ended up out there on his farm for a good part of 3 weeks, shooting nights and running around during the day. It was pretty awesome.
Do you know if he saw the finished movie?
I don't know if he's alive, but I'd like him to see the movie. We've reached out to him, and he doesn't have.
Right, he's not like internet
respond or
savvy.
anything like that. So I don't know. He was like a pretty older guy when we were with him. I hope he's alive. If he is, shout out to you, Farmer John.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if he's seen it. I doubt it. But I'd like him to.
Yeah. So, but Poe doesn't have a second victim there. Did you? How about the house itself? Is that his house? Well, his farm?
No. The exterior was his, but the interior was not. That was another farm. There's a TV show that they filmed in Toronto, outside of Toronto, called Schitt's Creek. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
Yeah.
Got like Eugene Levy and Catherine O'Hara. It's a pretty funny show. Mm-hmm. But they film out on this sort of farm, and we were able to utilize that set for the kill room. Was actually like this old barn that was used by like this kid he like takes bicycles and restores old school classic bicycles. Mm-hmm. And that was sort of his showroom, was in that room. And in exchange for letting us use the room, the parents were like, well, can you put him in the movie? And we were like, sure. So like that first victim that you kind of see running around early in the movie, that's the kid whose farmhouse it was that we ended up making into our kill room. Uh-huh. He had to empty out all of his bicycles, and he let us in there to sort of make the farmer's sort of scarecrow workshop room.
That's very cool.
Yeah, I mean, listen, when you're making these types of films, you have to be resourceful in every possible way. Mm-hmm. Get anything done. Mm-hmm. It's really filmmaking at its truest art, at its truest sense. You don't have money to throw at problems. You have to get creative with everything. And this was one of those movies that has like a funny story around sort of every turn. There's some kind of funny thing that had to happen in order to make something happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And is that fun when you have to be creative to get things done?
I mean, eventually you want to work to a place where you don't have to have this type of fun.
Right.
But, where we're at in our company and where we're at as far as cranking out films, this is a great place for us to be. And, we're definitely getting it done, so to speak. And when, the budgets and the stakes get higher, we'll be ready for it. And it'll be because of experiences like, what we've been going through. But, when you're working on these indie films in general, the crew that you're working with are just passionate people that aren't just punching a clock and making, union money. These are people that want to break in and want to do work and are excited to be there. And the cast was very much the same. And it makes like an environment that, it's pretty inspiring that, once the movie looks great. In my opinion, it looks great. And because of all the people,
shot well, yeah.
It's because of all the people that it's not just me, it's everybody. The people the art department was awesome. The wardrobe girl who created the Scarecrow masks and everything, like she did such a good job. Everybody has to like kind of pull their weight. You don't really have room for any slackers. And we got really lucky from top to bottom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and not to be told,
I'm sure everybody says that about their movie, but I mean it.
Yeah. Not to be told, perv. There's also very nice Daisy Dukes in the movie.
Yeah, that worked out really well too. It's funny. I don't think she realized exactly how those shorts looked
Uh-huh.
until maybe a few days in, and at that point we had already been shooting.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I mean, listen, these types of movies, this is sort of a throwback to an era where it was probably way worse than what I did.
Right.
But I think, having some eye candy that definitely doesn't hurt the film. It makes it, a better viewing experience for a good large segment of the audience, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So, for people who don't know, you have a long history as an actor. So, when did you decide to become a filmmaker?
I mean, I think like naturally growing up as a child actor, and you basically grow up on set. It's sort of a natural sort of evolution in general for most people to want to figure out what else is out there to get you excited about. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I first got a taste for the other side of the camera about 10 years ago when I was doing an MTV show with Jamie Kennedy. It was called Blowing Up, where it was sort of like Curb Your Enthusiasm with white rappers. And I got a chance to be like sort of on the other side of the camera, and I found it so fulfilling. And from there, I got to go work for Chris Angel, the magician, in Las Vegas as a producer for his TV show. And I just was loving that side of the camera so much. Like, there was so much more to do than just showing up on set, reading your lines, and going home. There's you're completely immersed in the project in a way that, I'd never experienced before. And I loved it. When I had the opportunity to direct, I did a couple music videos and stuff like that beforehand, but when I had a chance to sort of step in the director's chair and direct the Haunted House on Kirby Road film, I had such a good time that I was like, you get the bug, and it's like, fuck, man, I want to do this again and again and again and again. This is what I want to do. It's just, the rejuvenation, so to speak, of the excitement and passion that was it. That was all I needed to see. I think the complaint that I got from the Kirby Road film was that it was too funny and not scary enough for, like I said, hardcore horror fans. So, when I got another opportunity to direct a horror movie, which turns out to be Scarecrows, I still wanted to keep the tone in my, who I am, which, I come from like a comedy sort of more funny place than a sinister place. But I definitely feel like we try to make it more scary and more, try to make it more appealing to the hardcore horror fans for Scarecrows. And I think, as we keep going and making more films, it'll just keep getting better and better. But definitely huge leaps and bounds from one film to the other, and I think it will only just continue in that direction. If you end up getting a chance to watch the Kirby Road film, you'll notice, that the two films sort of take place in the same universe. And there's even callbacks to the previous movie in Scarecrows and stuff. So that's something else that, we knew that, we're making these indie movies. Maybe someday people will go back and look for these types of films to see what we were doing, and they'll be like, whoa, look what they were doing. This is actually, all these movies all connect. This is so crazy.
That's pretty cool.
I don't know if it'll ever get to that point, but, it's good. You never know. So it's always good to dream big.
Definitely. So why horror? Were you always interested in horror movies?
It's a little bit of that. Of course, everybody who's roughly, it seems like, due to your Outback Jack reference, we're probably roughly the same age. We grew up in that era when horror movies that's what you went to the video store. You either got wrestling tapes or you got horror movies. That to have an opportunity to jump in was really cool. I wouldn't say that it's my specialty by any means, but when you're making a movie as a filmmaker, horror movies as a genre, you don't need star name actors to be in a horror movie for people to come and see it. It's the only genre that exists that's like that. People go see horror movies because it's a horror movie, not because of who's in it, which allows you to make horror movies for, lower independent style budgets and get a lot of bang for your buck. And it's a good way to discover new talent as well. I think that the kids that were in our movie were great, and I think they're going to have good, long careers ahead of them. It's great that they were able to get their start with me in Scarecrows. It's just that type of genre that you can still go out there and make a film, and you don't need, The Rock to be in your movie in order for it to come out.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, it's a combination of a lot of things of why horror. But I also think, like, if I was going to cut my teeth as a director for a couple of movies, this was a fun place to do it too. With horror, there are no rules. You can sort of do whatever you want. And, that's exciting as a storyteller to not have limitations on where you can go with your story. And that doesn't matter if it makes sense or doesn't make sense. Like, all bets are off when it comes to horror. You can pretty much make your own rules. And it's fun. I think there's a combination of a lot of things, but mainly, yes, I do love the genre, and I grew up loving it, so it was cool to be able to, like, give a nod and homage to those films that I grew up watching. But B, getting experience and trying to launch a career in a company, horror movies are a great choice because you can make them cheaper and you can sell them easy, and horror translates into any language, and people love to go get scared. And our movies probably make you laugh and then make you scream a little bit. So, we offer something a little bit different than other people are offering in this space. So it's, and also I think the success of films like Get Out and Halloween, obviously, horror is, and Blumhouse is becoming this huge powerhouse in Hollywood. They have become, I should say. It's exciting. It's a great time to be in the genre and in the space. And people are looking for horror in ways that they maybe haven't in years past. So, it's a perfect storm right now to be making these types of films, and I'm lucky that I'm one of the few that gets to do it.
Yeah. I also saw you're one of the composers on the movie, so did you do the score, and did you have any input on in the final song in the credits?
Yes. John Carpenter, he scores his movies. Probably for the same reason that I did mine, because it's cheaper to do it that way. But I do have a love for music. Obviously, I am a musician as well. And at one point I had like a record deal and was doing the whole music thing. And I think that being able to do the music, it's part of the storytelling that I feel like the music sets the tone especially in horror, the music sets the tone for the whole film. So, being hands-on with the music is really an important thing for me. Plus, I love it and enjoy that process so much. But yeah, I definitely scored the movie with Jamie Rise. Ironically, when Jamie and I had our Kennedy and I were doing our rap thing, we had this song called Circle Circle Dot Dot that was written and produced by myself and Jamie Rise. And when now I'm doing these horror movies all these years later, it's the same guy, Jamie Rise, that did those silly rap songs with me. That's that's doing these horror movies with me. So it's really cool to still be able to like work with your best friends and everybody sort of rooting for each other.
Yeah.
The music itself, the closing credit song, is a very talented friend of mine named Johnny Newman, who in all of the films that I've done music for, I've used his music. He is just like this. He's got this album called The Gold Coast that's just an incredible record that most people just don't know about. And lucky for me, they don't, because it's allowed me to sort of utilize his catalog of songs in everything I've done. I've always used his music. I love him, and I love his music. And anything I can do to get his music out there, I'll do. And he happened to have a song called Scarecrow. And in the lyrics, the Scarecrow is alive. That had nothing to do with our movie. That was a coincidence. And it was just like, holy shit. Perfect.
Yeah.
And it worked out.
Yeah, I assumed it was written for the movie. That's very that is a very cool coincidence.
We could stick with that version. But, we got lucky. A lot of it's luck. It's like getting that song is the same as getting the cornfield, is the same as getting the kill room, is the same as having, like, the guy that looks like Kane walk through the door. It's like a series of lucky events that have to come together in order for the finished product to be what it is. And, there's no exceptions, not even the music.
Mm-hmm. So, how important is video on demand and, like, streaming sites to an independent movie maker?
Well, I mean, you're just looking for your movies to be seen by people, right? So, any platform where people can watch your movies is definitely a good one. And it's, it's rare that you see indie movies get, like, wide theatrical releases these days. Mm-hmm. It's not like the heyday of the mid-'90s when, all these independent movies were, like, breaking box office records. It's been years since anything like that has happened. And there's also just so much more content and so many ways to get it, and everybody can sort of watch whatever they want, whenever they want nowadays. And the competition for people's attention is higher than it's ever been in the history of the world. However, VOD as it is in these streaming platforms, I think that's where, the younger generation that's where they're watching stuff. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. They're not waiting for the movie to come on Channel 7 at 8 o'clock. They want to watch it whenever they want. And, back in the old school days, if you wanted to watch Nightmare on Elm Street and you went to the video store and all the copies were rented out, you weren't watching Nightmare on Elm Street. Mm-hmm. You're finding something else to watch. That problem does not exist for this modern generation. They can watch whatever they want, whenever they want, however they want, on their phone, on their tablet, in the toilet, on a plane, wherever they are. They can watch and access whatever they want. So it's just, these are the platforms that provide us a chance for our movies to get seen, and so you gotta love that. I wonder if, like, a cult kind of hit could come from one of these type of releases, and I haven't seen it happen too often. But I have a feeling that, the companies like Uncorked are going to figure out the secret sauce sooner than later. Because they seem to be taking a lot of swings at the fences, and it's a matter of time before something gets knocked out of the park for them. And hopefully, we'll be a part of that. And when that day comes, that'll be a good day for all of us.
Mm-hmm. I think, like, this year, though, like a movie like Terrifier, which don't believe that any theatrical release is just video on demand. It's really like a cult hit, so I do think it's possible for movies that are strictly video on demand or DVD and stuff to get a big following.
I mean, I do think that there's definitely, like, a segment of people that, like, strictly like only to watch those type of movies. Otherwise channels like Lifetime movies wouldn't exist. People want to watch. People sort of like alternative to the Hollywood sort of movies. And I mean, a show like yours wouldn't exist if, you didn't like these types of movies. Then it's always been like that since the beginning of time. I'm sure, when Alfred Hitchcock, and by no means am I comparing myself to Alfred Hitchcock, so don't take this to mean that. But when he first was coming out, people thought that his shit was campy and kitschy, and it took some time for people to gravitate towards it. And I'm sure that's the case for a lot of guys, it's there's something for everyone, you know what I mean? And I think that there's definitely, like, a segment of film fans that are out there that root for the underdog films and want to uncover a movie that people don't know and haven't heard of. They want to be the person that found it, they want the bragging rights of uncovering a hidden gem, so to speak. So, there's definitely a market for these types of films. And, you just hope that you're the gem that people find.
So do you guys have a website or anything for your upcoming movies?
We are on social. Well, we have a website, 57films.com, spelled out FIVESEVEN films.com. We're on social media and all those different platforms. And, everything should be on there. up next for us, we have coming in early 2019 is a documentary on the rise and fall of the baseball card boom of the late 80s and early 90s.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's a completely left turn from making these horror movies.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to just tell any kind of story. If there's a story that's interesting to me, I want to tell it. And I thought that was a really cool part of my childhood.
Yeah, mine as well. I collected a lot of cards back in the day. Used to subscribe to Tough Stuff, and
Right. So everybody wants to know, like, what the hell happened. Like, remember, cards were supposed to be worth a fortune, and then what happened? Mm-hmm. So that's we have this investigative documentary that's finished that should be coming out in the next couple months in the United States. It's already out in Canada and doing pretty well. But it's called Jack of All Trades. The trailer is on YouTube, and there's social media on Instagram and Facebook and everywhere. There's Jack of All Trades page that has the trailer and a bunch of cool stuff, and that's what's next for us.
Cool. Did you collect cards yourself?
I did, actually. My dad actually owned baseball card shops as a kid.
Oh, wow.
This was like an extremely personal kind of connection that I had to the hobby, much more than most kids. So yeah, I definitely was like, I grew up with it, and then like one day it just kind of stopped. And as an adult, I went back and found my collection and thought it would be worth a fortune, and I went to try to sell it, and it was worth like $50. And I was like, how the hell is that possible? And that sort of spawned this whole documentary that we shot on, what the hell happened.
Yeah.
It's a really cool movie. Much different than Scarecrows.
Yeah.
But definitely a cool movie.
Mm-hmm. I assume, because I know just locally, like, I don't think there's any card shops around anymore, but it's kind of depressing to think, there was a lot of local card shops when I was younger, and I'd go there and, buy whole boxes of cards and open them and stuff, and then they just all vanished.
Yeah, but in 1990, there was 10,000 baseball card shops in the United States. Now there's probably, a couple hundred, if even. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. But you can make parallels sort of to any sort of collectible of that era.
Yeah. When I was growing up, there's a lot of comic book shops, too.
Right. Once something goes mainstream and becomes like a mainstream collectible where everybody who pulls a Ken Griffey Jr. is putting it into a plastic, then everybody's got one, and they're all in good condition. So the value obviously is not going to hold. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the Mickey Mantle rookie card was rare because it was rare.
Right.
Ken Griffey Jr. rookie card, or Mark McGwire rookie card, or Barry Bonds, or whatever you collected, everybody was put it in a plastic. Everyone bought comic books and put them right into the protective bag, with the little piece of cardboard behind it.
Mm-hmm.
So once everyone starts, becoming aware that something is collectible, then it sort of ruins the collectability of it or the value. So there's a lot of lessons that were learned, I'm sure, but I don't know, and I don't want to give away too much of that story. But there's definitely a card industry that still exists in 2018, and it's much different than the one you remember. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just thinking action figures, because actually on my wall here, because I'm a very cool guy, I have a bunch of old WWF action figures on the wall, but it's the same thing, when you're a kid, most people opened them, Star Wars figures, so that's why they're rare. Then later on, people just bought them and specifically kept them in the package, and then it's not as rare then.
No, that's exactly right. I mean, I got some figures too, I'm not going to lie. I see, but I was a kid that grew up with when my dad owned baseball card and comic book shop. I was sort of like smartened up to that point. So, when I would go to the store to buy LJN wrestling figures, I would buy a Hulk Hogan to open, and I would buy like 2 or 3 to put away.
Right.
So I already had that sort of mentality as a kid. And I do have a couple of Hulksters, still in the package, but. I love to go on eBay and look at the astronomical prices that, Joes and Star Wars figures and wrestling figures are the asking price. if I had unlimited amounts of money in my life, maybe I would waste some buying like Kamala still in the package.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But it's fun to look at, that's for sure.
Yeah, I forget which one it is. It's like either one with the moon on the belly. I think it's the one with the moon on the belly. Is like a crazy amount of money. The Hasbro one. Yeah.
Yeah, there's like a Kamala figure worth like 10 grand or something.
Yeah.
But it's funny because the reason why that's worth money is because people our age who are in our 30s, 40s, and above, we remember fondly, like we want to go back and find the stuff from our childhood.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe there will be a spark for baseball cards, because maybe people will want to go and find a Griffey Jr. rookie card again because it reminds them of those days. And they have kids now, and they want their kids to kind of play with the shit that they played with. You never know. So,
I haven't looked these up. I said I haven't looked these up for a while. But I do have a. I'm looking at the wall here. I've got a polka dot Dusty Rhodes. That one used to be worth a lot. I'm not sure if it still is.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
You got the Mattel. You got the Hasbro Mattel.
Yeah, on the wall. I have LJN ones, but I actually played with them, so they're not in the best shape. But these ones I kept in the package and have on the wall.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, the Dusty's got to be really cool.
Yeah,
there's people that have there's people that collect these Funko Pops.
Right.
And they don't take they don't take them out of the package, and they just sort of keep them in the box and they put them on display in the box. And I'm thinking I think they're cool too. I'm guilty of owning a few myself, but the reason why those other toys were worth money is because kids opened them up and played with them, and there was a generation of kids playing with the toys that got older and want to go back and find the toys that they played with still in the package.
Yeah.
If the Funkos never got opened and played with, then there's nobody that's ever going to be looking back at them as hey, I used to play with those when I was a kid, when it's really 30 and 40-year-olds buying them and just putting them on the shelf.
Right.
So
I think that's why they make so many, for the wrestling again, is why they make so many Legends figures and stuff, because they are made for adult collectors just to buy.
Right.
But I don't know how you'd really play with a pop figure either. They're cool just to look at and put somewhere, but if you open, I don't really know what you do with it to play with it. It doesn't have much
I think
or anything.
They're good desk ornaments, I suppose. I mean, I have an Iron Sheik one that I'm looking at right now, and it's still in the box. It's not coming out of the box either. So, yeah, you're right. It's like a bobblehead, but wrestling. They've covered every square inch of pop culture imaginable.
Oh, I know.
With those Funkos. I mean, there isn't a licensee that they haven't tackled yet.
Yeah, I was not too long ago at the mall, and there's Bob Ross one and Notorious B.I.G. Yeah, it just covers, like you said, everything you could ever. Some stuff I don't even know what it is. I was I don't know what this is, but it's it's pretty cool looking. Yeah. By the way, Iron Sheik's the only guest I ever had on that hung up on me.
Well, there you go. Well, you shouldn't have given him that option.
I got asked about Donnie Darko, because when I mentioned you're going to come, a lot of people want to ask about Donnie Darko. So, how did you get the role in Donnie Darko to begin with?
Did you ever see the movie Swingers?
Yes.
You know the scene where Vince Vaughn is telling the story about how he went into the audition and he nails the audition, and at the end they're like, "Oh, but you're not 13."
Right.
That's sort of what happened to me. I went in to the audition for Donnie Darko, and it was all these little kids there, and I was much older than all of them, and I was like, "What the hell am I doing here?" And I called my agent at the time, and I was like, "There's all 12-year-olds here. What am I doing here?" And they're like, "Well, they saw your picture." And I'm like, "What picture did you send them?" They're like, "It's an old one, but they've got it." And I'm like, "Okay, I'll just go in, but this is a waste of time." I went in and I auditioned, and we didn't really know what it was. It was just advertised at that time. It was "Oh, you're auditioning for this Drew Barrymore movie." That's how it was sort of pitched to the actors back then. And I went in and I read for it, and then left and never thought anything of it. And I think initially Donnie Darko was supposed to be maybe a 12-year-old kid. And for whatever reason, when they landed on Jake Gyllenhaal in the casting, it caused the rest of the kids to be older, and there I was. I was the one guy that was like older than everybody else that auditioned for it, and I ended up getting the part. Really cool movie to be a part of.
Yeah,
definitely. You know, as far as cult status, it doesn't get more culty or statusy than Donnie Darko, and sort of, it feels like that's a credit that sort of carries weight no matter what generation of film fan you're talking to. So it's really great that a lot of life is just a lot of it's talent, but a lot of it's luck, and this is another one of those lucky opportunities that ended up happening. And a lot of people don't realize that, but that was also Seth Rogen's first movie. He's in Donnie Darko. He plays one of the classmates.
Yeah, actually, I haven't seen it for a while. I was about in my late teens or 20 when it came out. I watched it a bunch of times when I was probably in my 20s. I haven't seen it for quite a while. I didn't even know he was in it.
That's a prime example of a movie that became a cult hit without being a box office success. I mean, when the movie came out in theaters, it bombed completely. It made like $150,000 in the box office or something. It was done. And when it came out on DVD, it started getting discovered by college kids. And then it just spread and became this phenomenon, so much so that like 2 years later, it came back out in theaters again.
Yeah.
And, it's the gift that keeps on giving. It's just a great movie that still holds up, still entertaining, still confusing as fuck. And, it was so much fun to be a part of. And, like I said, it's a pretty good credit to be able to throw out there. Like, if someone's like, oh, have you ever seen anything that I know? I can just be like, I was in this movie, Donnie Darko. And they're like, oh, my God. And, so it's definitely a cool one. The cool one.
Yeah, so this, because you mentioned you didn't really know what the movie was when you're auditioning. When you're filming it, do you really have like a grasp on what the movie's about, or not to like you actually see the finished movie?
It was a very confusing movie to understand, even when we were making it, and a lot of the, it was a first-time director, fresh out of film school, who wrote it, Richard Kelly, and it was a bunch of veteran actors that were making up the cast, like Patrick Swayze and Noah Wyle and Drew Barrymore, and even the kids in the movie. Like, I had been an actor already for like 12 years or 15 years at the time I was in that, and Jake Gyllenhaal was a child actor, and everybody sort of brought their own flavor to the table, and there was like a lot of improv on the set and a lot of ad-libbing and a lot of people just sort of making the characters their own, that it sort of helped bring the quirky story to life in a way that, like, even if you don't fully understand what's going on, you're still entertained by it. Which is something you sort of can't plan. It sort of just has to happen like that. And I remember watching the movie at Sundance when we first got to see the cut. And when the credits were rolling, people were sort of scratching their head like, what the fuck? Like, what just happened? And, if you go and you watch a film like The Last Temptation of Christ, which is like a Martin Scorsese movie that not a lot of people have seen, it's a very similar story. And I think that this Donnie Darko, the best way to sort of explain what the hell's going on would be to tell somebody to watch The Last Temptation of Christ. And they would, you see sort of like what maybe Richard Kelly was going for there. Like, what happens if Jesus didn't die on the cross and he ended up getting down, and then at the end, he realizes, well, no, I needed to die. I was supposed to die there in order for everything to happen the way that it's supposed to happen. And that's sort of Donnie Darko right there in a nutshell. Like, he's supposed to die in that when that engine falls, in order for the rest of the world to go on the way that it's supposed to. It's interesting. It's not.
I never thought of it that way.
it's got time travel elements to it, but it's not a time travel movie, so to speak. But it is one. I mean, there's no DeLorean, but there's definitely like alternate explanations that stem from real theories of time travel that are put in there. And I think that sort of helps the mystery of the film, because there are so many real kind of things that you can go into a black hole of research and sort of corroborate stuff that's from the movie, that's actual real theory and real life stuff, or the wormhole theories and stuff like that. Those are real. So it's not just something that he just made up and put in a movie. So it's really cool, you know, and it touches upon a lot of things. It touches upon nostalgia because it takes place in like 1988. So there's like a whole bunch of cool 80s stuff in there, like the soundtrack and the costumes and the stuff that's going on there. You know, it touches upon some stuff for people who are into like sci-fi and horror and even like dark comedy type stuff. There's like a lot of humor in the movie. It's just a really, really good movie. And, you know, it holds up. And, you know, like I said, I'm blessed to have been a part of that. And it's something that I'm definitely proud of for sure. And like I said, it carries weight. So, you know, even if I don't do, and I probably will end up doing more acting in the future, but even if I didn't, I still, you know, I can hang my hat that I was involved in some really cool projects, and that would be definitely towards the top of the list for sure. Yeah.
And I have to say, it's one of the few, I don't know if you ever saw the director's cut, but it's a director's cut where it is like a totally different cut of the movie. Usually some comes out, say director's cut, and I'll have like a couple minutes of deleted scenes, and it really doesn't make any difference. But the director's cut's a lot longer. It explains more, and it even has the music's different places, and things are cut a little different. It's worth checking out if anyone out there's never seen the director's cut.
Yeah, it definitely like holds your hand a little bit more and kind of like lets you sort of understand a little bit better what's going on for sure. It's good. Listen, when you're making a movie, there's people you have to answer to, you know, even with Scarecrows or Jack of all Trades or any of our movies, you know. Scarecrows, originally there was 15 more minutes of that movie, but the distributors and the people in charge, they want the movie to be a certain length of time. So you have to make concessions. You have to cut something to get the movie to be 85 minutes so that it can be played as a 2-hour block on broadcast television, if that's the case. You know, so stuff's got to go. And you have to make tough choices sometimes. And I think, though, for the most part, pacing of films ends up being a lot better when you run a movie, especially like these types of movies at that length. And maybe Donnie Darko that was the case. Maybe it was just, you know, running too long for the original inception of what they thought they had on their hands. But then once the movie took off and became the huge cult classic that it was, it gave Richard a chance to be like, okay, let me show you what I originally turned in, because that's the story that I really wanted to tell. And, you know, he gets to have that original vision out there. Pretty cool.
Definitely.
It's not like one of those like National Lampoon movies that's like unrated with extra boobs. It's like not
right. Yeah. Shane Sandberg sent this in. That's off to. What's the point of living if you don't have a dick?
You know, he's not wrong. You know.
Right. So, Scarecrows coming out in early December 11th, I believe, is the date.
December 11th.
Yeah. And where is that going to be? Like on all the video demand sites?
As far as I know, yeah, it's going to be on all the VOD sites, Redbox, those types of places, and I think it's going to be available to own on Blu-ray in the new year. And who knows? You know, it's like these types of movies. A lot of them are like little engines, and some of them could, and maybe this will be one of those. It's been getting really cool coverage, and a lot of people who watch it who can check, you know, their sense of Oscars at the door are enjoying the movie. And for what it is, it delivers. And for what we expect it to be, it delivers. And if you want to make some popcorn and watch a movie that you don't have to like think too much, and you can just have a couple laughs and a couple screams, look at some decent looking kids getting killed, then this is the movie for you.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll be making more of these in the future.
Very cool. And I also throw out there's a lot of lip sewing in the movie, which is cringy to me. So.
Yes, I mean, how are you supposed to get people to not scream for help, other than to sew their mouths shut?
Right. That's always been my motto.
That was a childhood threat.
That's very true.
Kid. Like, hey, if you don't shut up, I'm gonna zip it shut. And I always thought that was such an empty threat. You know, I never took it seriously.
Right.
And now I got to do it in a movie, so there you go. That's my nod to all the parents of the 80s and 90s.
Right. Very cool. It's been very fun to talk to you, and I hope people check out Scarecrows, and I hope you keep making cool movies. We'll have you back on. Yeah,
that would be great. Thanks for supporting independent films, and definitely thanks for having me on and supporting Scarecrows, and hopefully you'll enjoy it, and the people listening will enjoy it, and we'll get to do this again. Good luck to you, and have a happy holiday season, and hopefully we'll connect again in 2019 to talk about the next one.
Very good. Thanks, and you have a great holiday season as well.
All right, take care, man.
Thanks.
Hey, everybody, this is Tyler Main, and you are listening to WithoutYourHead.com. I still got mine. You got yours?